Hello everyone. So I'm a dog lover and I've had many pets in my life, and a couple of years back I had a pet dog, a pet Labrador called Hope. Beautiful dog, loved her a lot. And one of the things about Labradors, as some of you may know, is that they just love food. And that was the same case with Hope. And when she was much younger, she would sit very close to the dining table whenever we'd be having a meal. And anytime any one of us would accidentally drop any food down, she would just gallop like a horse and get there and just gobble it all up. But as Hope aged, she got arthritis and it became a little difficult for her to run like she used to when she was a little pup. So then when food used to drop from the table, she'd literally look up at one of us and wait for us to pass on that food to her, right? That's how dogs are. But one of the things I discovered as Hope aged is one of the biggest challenges in taking care of an old dog is to give them the medicines that you need to for their health. And Hope was given a lot of medicines and a lot of these pills, really big, thick pills that she had to take to stay healthy. And giving a dog a pill is one of the most challenging things to do, if some of you have ever tried that or seen that. Here's how the process works. So you take the pill, and the moment your dog hears the pill coming out of the wrapper, typically your dog would run under the dining table or hide somewhere. Then starts the process of luring the dog out or sometimes having to pull the dog out. Painful process, don't enjoy it. And then you take the pill to the dog. The dog's not going to open its mouth and say, all right, give me the pill, I'm ready. You literally have to, open the jaw of the dog with your hands and put the pill in and really put it down really inside the throat and pull out your hand all gooey and messy, and you hold on to the mouth of the dog so that till the time you hear the dog swallow that pill. And that's the painful process of giving the dog a pill. And it used to be very difficult for me to do this with Hope because it used to break my heart every time I had to do this, till I discovered a better way of doing it. What happened is that I accidentally discovered that she loves peanut butter. I was having a peanut butter sandwich and a piece of it fell down, and with her arthritis and everything, she ran up and gobbled it up. I said, okay, I haven't seen that before. And that made me realize that she really likes peanut butter. So I had an idea. What I did is I took a piece of bread, put a lot of peanut butter on it, took the pill, hid the pill inside that piece of bread, and now when I went to Hope with that pill hidden in that piece of bread, I didn't have to literally coax her. She just came running to me and in one lick just took it all in and gobbled it up. And she was enjoying it. And the beauty was she'd swallowed the pill, she didn't even know it, and she enjoyed the entire process. And that's the power of what stories can also do. Because sometimes the messages that we have to communicate are complicated, complex, and difficult for people to swallow. And there what a story does is that it enables people to receive that message, not just receive it, but enjoy receiving the message to the extent that sometimes they don't even consciously recognize, but they've received the message. And that's really the focus of today's lesson. I want to talk to you today about the 5 reasons why stories work. The 5 big reasons why stories work. And I'm going to talk to you about these from 3 different perspectives. I'm going to bring in the lens of what's happening in the world, so really industry trends and where does storytelling fit in from that perspective. Number 2, from neuroscience. There's a lot of advanced studies done in neuroscience and a lot of data is available now to tell us the impact of stories from a brain perspective. So I'm going to talk about that. And number 3, and finally, I'm going to share with you some evidence-based research that's been done in the space of corporate narratives. So get ready for these 5 big reasons why stories work and how they really work. The first and the biggest reason is that today as leaders, as managers and individuals, we have a higher need to influence and inspire. More often than not, if you're a leader or if you're a manager, more often than not, if you're communicating with somebody, there's a very high chance that you're either trying to influence or inspire. And stories are an extremely powerful tool to inspire or influence people to get ready to receive your message. Let me give you an example. So we were working with this leader and coaching him in the space of storytelling. As part of the coaching process, we work on a real work situation. And this leader had a real work situation where he had to convince his group of managers. He was working in a large IT organization. And he had to convince his group of managers that they needed to start reaching out to different people, different departments, and start asking for help. So this leader that I was coaching, Nitin, he came up and Nitin said that, this is the thing. I've got to convince my managers that they need to ask for help from these different support functions. And the problem is that they've never done it. And I don't know how it's going to impact their egos, whether they're ready for it. And I want to try if I can use storytelling there. And we said, all right, we sat with him and we tried to figure out what's the best way to approach it. And we co-created a narrative through some research. And he came up with this himself through his research. And this is what he finally ended up doing, Nitin, when he went up and spoke to his managers, because we asked him to record a video, something we'll ask you to do at the end of this course as well. So Nitin goes to his group of managers and stands in front of them and doesn't start off by saying, this is what I need you to do, this is what I want you to do. He starts off by addressing his managers and saying, hi team, I came across an interesting piece and I thought I'd share with you because I found it very relevant. So there was once this little girl who was walking on this path with her father. And as they walked on this path, suddenly in front of them, they saw a huge branch of a tree that had fallen. So the little girl looked at her dad and said, Dad, do you think I can move this branch? Her father replied, if you use all your strength, you can. So the little girl ran up to the branch and tried to push it. Put in her strength, tried to push it, tried to move it, but it didn't budge at all. She came back to her dad and she said, Dad, it's not working. I can't do it. Her father said, did you use all your strength? She said, yes, I did. He said, try again. So she ran back to the branch again and tried pushing, heaving, everything, but it just didn't budge. She comes back and tells her father that, Dad, you were wrong. It's not working. Her dad said, but you didn't use all your strength. The little girl said, what do you mean? He said, you didn't ask me for my help. And that's also a strength that you have, asking me for my help. And Nitin went on to share with his managers, the reason I share this with all of you as managers today is because all of us are strong and capable in what we do. But today I reach out to all of you because one of the strengths you have which you're not leveraging is to ask for help from your colleagues in other departments to manage through this crisis. And then he went on and spoke about the other points and the data that he had to support that. But look at the beauty of this. What this did is that it immediately got the managers at a different level of thinking, at a different level of emotion, to relate to what the message really is. And that's the power of storytelling and influencing and inspiring. And that's the first point, that your stories may not be your message, but your stories prime your audience to receive your message. Very similar to how before painting a wall, you have to treat the wall with a primer or some product, and only then you put the paint, because you could buy the most expensive paint, but if the wall is not treated right, the paint is not going to stick. It's going to chip off. Stories are like that primer and that treatment that you put on the wall before you put the paint. And the paint is really your actual message. So your stories make your message stick. And that's the first reason why stories are so powerful, because today we have a need to engage and inspire, and stories can help our messages land better and stick better. And that's one of the first reasons why stories are so powerful. The second reason why stories are so powerful and becoming increasingly more popular in the corporate circuit is because stories are a very powerful tool to drive people towards a future, to show a vision of the future to your people. Stories are extremely powerful to do that. And there are many cases in history that we can refer to, whether it was Sir Martin Luther King standing up and saying those magical words, I have a dream, or whether it was the late Steve Jobs going up on stage and saying, today Apple is going to reinvent the phone. All of these were really stories that were being told to paint a vision of the future that does not exist. And further on in this lesson, in this course, you'll come across and you'll learn about a pattern called the Just Imagine pattern. And that's a pattern that's specifically focused on leading people into the future. So more about that later then. So that's the second reason why stories are so powerful. They help us paint a vision for people to see the future. The third reason why stories are so powerful is because In today's working environment, there's a very high need because teams are getting formed and changed extremely quickly. There's a very high need to build trust and credibility with people very, very quickly. Gone are the days where we had the luxury of time, of months and years to build relationships with people, establish credibility. Now you've got to do it really, really quick. And stories play a huge role there. I still remember when I started my career in sales and collections many years back, and I was struggling to convince my clients, to convince my customers. My manager, who was listening to my conversation, sat me down one day and said, "What's happening?" And I said, "What do you mean, Manu? I'm doing my job." He said, "But yeah, you're not being able to convince these people. You're not being able to influence them." And I said, "Yeah, that's because they don't get it." This was me 20 years back. And he went on to say many things, and while he was giving me feedback, very valuable feedback, one of the things that he said has stayed with me till today. And he said, before you sell your product, you've got to sell yourself. And what he meant by that, when he explained it, is that before you sell or influence or attempt to convince somebody, you've got to ensure first that you've established some level of connect and likability. Because if there's resonance, if there's connect, people are more likely to buy your idea, buy your point. And that's really, really powerful. And many of you, any of you who've ever been in a job which had to do with sales or marketing would recognize the importance of connection and relating before making the sales attempt or before making the influence attempt. In fact, the master of influence, Cialdini himself, in his book, Influence, has spoken about what he calls the 6 weapons of influence. And one of those weapons is what he calls consistency. And consistency is a principle of influencing people by getting them to slowly say yes, 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 which means you first get them to say yes to something small, and then you lead them to a bigger yes, lead them to a bigger yes. And the psychological background to this concept is that people who've committed to saying a yes to something will most likely continue saying yes, because people don't want to be wrong in their own heads. So what if before you were trying to influence your managers or your team, you could get them to a place where they said, not about your idea, but about something else. They said, yes, he's got a point. Or yes, she makes sense. Yes, I like him. Yes, I can connect with her. And when that yes is their starting point, it could make your influence attempt a lot easier. So that's the third reason why stories are so powerful, because stories generate resonance. And some of you may have felt that in the earlier sections of this lesson when you interacted with your facilitator and listened to your facilitator's story and introduction, you may have felt that resonance. And that's the third reason why stories are so powerful. The fourth reason I want to share with you today is because stories can help us deliver complicated messages. And the way stories can help us do that, complicated messages or even messages that are difficult or impossible for people to accept sometimes, because stories suspend disbelief. And let me prove that to you. How many of you have ever sat at home and watched an advert for a burger or a pizza? Think about it for a moment. And if you notice, the way these advertisers show that advert is really cunning, is really smart, really. Because it invokes all your senses. You see the cheese dropping, you see the steam coming out, you see the freshly sliced tomatoes, you see the leaves of lettuce with droplets of water, and you see a hand picking it all up and squishing the burger so that the mayonnaise is dripping out, and then somebody takes a big bite. And as you see that, your mouth starts salivating. Why does that happen? The logical part of your brain knows that that's not real. You're watching it on the television. But there's something else that's happening that's making your body behave the same way as if there was a real burger in front of you. Or if you ever watched a high-speed car chase in a movie. So you're sitting at home, or you're sitting at a home theater or a theater, and you're watching this movie with a high-speed car chase. And suddenly as the cars swerve left and right, you sitting on your comfortable couch go, why does that happen? The logical part of your brain knows that you're not sitting in that car, but there's something else that's happening that makes your body behave as if you're immersed in that process. That's why stories are called immersive experiences. And the biological reason and the psychological reason behind that really is that Our brain broadly is divided into 8 regions. And now recent evidence in brain activity and brain MRIs have shown us conclusive evidence that when a person receives information in the form of facts and data, when a person receives information in the form of facts and data, it only activates 2 out of the 8 regions of the brain, including the prefrontal cortex. And both these regions of the brain have to do with logically understanding what is being said and assigning meaning to it. But this research has also shown that when a person receives information in the form of a story, it activates as many as 7 out of the 8 regions of the brain. 7 out of 8 regions of the brain get activated when a person listens to a story. And one of these regions is the sensory part of our brain, which activates all the senses. Movement, taste, smell, touch, all of this get activated. So when you're listening to a story, you actually feel it. It invokes a certain sense of emotion. And that's called the impact of psychology on the physiology. It impacts your body as well. And that's how stories are so powerful to suspend disbelief. So very often leaders have used it very smartly when trying to diffuse or tame the grapevine or diffuse rumors or land a very positive message in terms of crisis. Stories can work extremely powerfully. And many leaders do it very effectively. And that was the 4th reason why stories are so popular and so powerful. The 5th and the last reason that I want to share with you today in this lesson is because stories make whatever we have to say memorable. Now we all know that nobody in today's world enjoys looking at slides and slides filled with data and text. Nobody likes that. And that's where stories come to our rescue, because stories stick better than charts and slides. And there's this interesting study that was done by Carnegie Mellon University in the year 2007, where they embarked on a journey to figure out what convinces people more, data or stories, the age-old debate, left brain or right brain. And it was a fairly long research study. We have a link for you underneath this lesson. So please click that link and read that report in your own leisure. But Carnegie Mellon University discovered through that research that stories actually influence people 118% more than data. Stories influence people 118% more than just data. And that's really powerful. So read the research report to understand the context of this study, and maybe in your next lesson you can discuss this with your facilitator as well. But that's the 5th reason, that stories make whatever we have to say more memorable and stick with us much longer. So there you have it, the 5 reasons why stories are so powerful and so required in today's world. I hope you enjoyed going through this lesson. There are a couple of instructions for you down below to finish before you move on to the next lesson. Thank you very much, and see you soon again.